Hello everybody, we're going to be starting in 1 minute. Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning or good evening, depending on where you connect. My name is Youri Sawerschel. I'm the founder of Creative Supply. And today, this is Will AI Kill Your Brand? So I'm very much looking forward to spend the next roughly 25-30 minutes with you guys and to go over a very packed agenda that we have for you. First, looking a little bit of what's happening in the world of AI, focusing on the impact on branding. After that, we're going to look at a prototype of a brand we have developed with the döner kebab and looking at AI strategy. How can we cope? How can we deal with our own brand with AI? And finally, we'll leave some time for Q&A if you guys have questions. And I definitely encourage you to already think throughout the presentation about your questions, which I will pick up at the end in the chat. And I also have a little surprise for you at the end. So what is happening? I mean, to be fair, there's not one day, 1 minute that doesn't go without us hearing about AI. From job displacement to Hollywood is going bust to entrepreneur who tells you they have the magic solution to build everything with AI for free and very fast. Doesn't work. So we start to think, okay, what do we do there? To be honest, putting a webinar like this together is the result of the work we do with clients, the interrogations we get with clients, because truth is, nobody really knows how is this whole thing going to develop. And there's only a couple of hundreds of people, apparently, that know how to code AI solutions, which tells you how everybody else is basically in the unknown. So we try to focus more on the branding impact of it. What does it mean for brands? So things are changing fast. Content saturation, more and more and more content. Everybody is doing funky emoji of themselves, a little version of themselves in plastic box and toy box. So much more content because it's easy and it's fast and it's a bit gadgety at so many levels. More doesn't mean better, but it also means it's harder to be seen. Hyper competition, especially in the world of AI itself. Every day you hear about the new solution, AI to develop your website automatically, AI to be your assistant, AI to do X and Y. So much solutions out there that at the end of the day, from a pure branding point of view, you wonder, okay, which one should I go for? And there is so many new solutions happening out there at the moment, arguably more than the market demands it, that it leads to decision fatigue. At the end of the day, people know ChatGPT, maybe Claude, but then what else? And that creates a hyper competition for all those new companies coming to the market with AI solutions, and obviously creates even more competition for existing companies that try to use AI in their solutions. And finally, everything is so fast. To give you an idea, just putting this webinar together today versus 2 years ago, it's 100 times faster to do, from an editing to a planning to everything, thanks to AI technologies that allow to do this. Vibe coding is taking over the world. You don't need developers anymore. Arguably, vibe coding can do it. Lots of limitation, automating everything, etc., etc. Which means things are moving so fast. And by perfection is no longer something you can even reach, because by the time you're even halfway, the agenda has changed. Now, things are changing very fast, but certain things you will see are not changing that fast. If we have a look at pure branding elements, and I'm thinking, the storytelling, your offering, the space design, the brand identity, and all of those, I just wanted to highlight to you kind of 8 shifts that we see across those different dimensions of branding. I'm not going to go through all of them, but if you think about storytelling, for example, Anybody with an access to ChatGPT can produce a brand manifesto that has the copywriting quality of a very large company. So it's commoditized. If you think of customer offering, everything can get automated and automated, sometimes good for chatbot, sometimes bad. If you think about brand identity, copying culture is becoming a huge challenge because even if you create something amazing, you can literally take that amazing thing, put it in some sort of AI solution and have it copying overnight and distributed all around the world. So how do you protect your brand when the face value of your brand can be copied so easily? And that's difficult. Communication channels, I think many of you are using now ChatGPT to search information, which means Google ranking is no longer the most important thing. How do you get nicely ranked in ChatGPT? Turns out it's pretty much the same as with good old Google. That's a good thing. But it also means that the way you think about content has to be different. Hyper-personalization, of course, you can now offer specific things to everybody, which creates difficulties as well for the brand. First of all, to put it together, and two, to be able to adapt to that level of hyper-personalization. And maybe the last one, team and culture. More and more we are dealing with AI and human interaction. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, some of your colleagues are actually AI agents, and you will actually deal with them the same way you are dealing with your colleague today, good or bad. So this is something that is interesting to keep in mind. What's not changing? So human bandwidth, how much people can process information, well, hasn't changed much since Stone Age. So more content doesn't mean people have more capacity. Human psychology, greed, fear, envy. We've seen cycles and cycles of human behavior over the years, and this is something that's obviously not changing. And the role of a brand, fundamentally, a brand is, in the most basic way, it's a mental image which is associated to an offering. And that thing is not changing. It was like this in Roman time. It probably will be like this in 2,000 years from now on. How it's delivered, how this mental image is built, all of this is changing, of course. But the role of a brand as a token of trust and an association of ideas of something is pretty much remaining the same. So, after a bit this quick intro, I wanted to share with you something a little bit fun. And we wanted to kind of see how far we can go with AI tools today when it comes to actually creating a brand from scratch. Turns out some things work, but many things are a bit tricky. And I'd like to share with you the process of us rebranding a local döner kebab shop very close to our office actually here in Zurich. It's called Toros Ibis. They do amazing döner. You should definitely check them out. This aside, the döner is, it looks like any döner kebab that you would find in any European city in the world, to be honest. Nothing good, nothing bad, but definitely not standing out if we look at it from a branding point of view. So, when we thought let's first just ask ChatGPT on its own and see what it can do with this. So basically saying, I want to rebrand this business, do new logo, packaging, and do a new facade, and it should make sense. ChatGPT and any of those AI tools, if they don't have hand-holding, they're not that good. I would argue they're really bad, maybe good for agencies, I don't know. And what you see on the right is the result of it. So it's plain vanilla, it's generic, it's very expected. You know, you put head of a beef and you call the place Bosphorus. I mean, we would have been very impressed by this in 2023 because it's magic how the computer generates those images. But the reality of it from a branding point of view is that, you know, you're not gonna stand out with that level of branding, and it's very weak, at least from our point of view. Which, to be honest, is not surprising because the concept of the activity of branding requires a lot of thinking from very different aspects, thinking about operations, thinking about design, thinking about marketing, of course, and all of this needs to come together. So the way we approach it at Creative Supply, and I wanted to give you a little bit of a look under the hood, is we integrate, of course, lots of different AI tools throughout our process of brand development. And when it comes to brand strategy, Perplexity is amazing for market research or consumer sentiment analysis, a fancy word to say, what do people think about your brand? ChatGPT, we use it, but with our own creative engine. And by that I mean own creative engine, we have basically, it's still a work in progress, but we are basically fed ChatGPT to create our own GPTs using hundreds of case studies and past projects and insights from our own projects, because there's a way we deliver brands, obviously. And that helps ChatGPT basically tailor its thinking and its processes to the way we would build brand, which in a way avoids the risk of being too generic, because as you know, AI models are based on probability. What's the most probable answer or next words? So unless it's really pushed, it will always come back to something that would be expected, typically like this. In brand design, so the truth is, you will see, pure brand design is very hard to do with AI today. To be honest, nobody has cracked it. But it can be very useful when it comes to generating images, generating motion design, videos, etc. And for that, we have a mix of tools, typically ChatGPT for image generation, but not only, and then Midjourney, which is actually very powerful, and Runway, which is good in certain cases. And if you want to do AI generated brand, that means you're actually copying existing things, good or bad, and Pinterest obviously serves as very good references. So all those tools are kind of, I would argue, changing on a weekly basis, that we discover new ones, we integrate them. But as hype AI is, I can tell you that the fundamental of the work of the strategic thinking and the craft in brand development hasn't changed. It's the same thing. It's just that we had a hammer and now we have a super powerful automated hammer. So obviously we can do it faster. People say, oh, everything branding should cost less because you can do it faster. It's true. At the same time, I think branding should cost the same because we can do so much more. And thinking about it from that point of view, it's not just about the cost efficiency. It's about what we can do that we could not do before, simply because it was technologically not possible. And I think that's where we should be focusing our energy rather than just doing the same thing for cheaper, because to be honest, doing the same thing is no longer competitive in today's world. Anyway, so using our own model, we turn out that there's 4 big challenges with the kebab tours. Price perception, people think it is too high for something that looks very affordable. The menu is the same everywhere. It doesn't look modern and different than other competitors. And as some of you might know, Zurich, it's a very competitive market. It's very saturated with pizzerias and kebabs. So obviously, it doesn't stand out much. Things like that are actually very good insights. And all the part connected to market research, if you know what to ask and where to look, I think that's the caveat. Perplexity is very, very good at organizing the thoughts, etc., which, to be honest, is amazing because true value, as we will see later in this presentation, doesn't come so much from that. So using our creative engine, we started to see what could be different positioning options for that kebab place. So, and as you see on the map, this is basically the result of we have moving from traditional positioning, a traditional Turkish grill, for example, all the way to something much more progressive, like the Midnight Embassy. It's a go-to destination for Zurich night owl, etc. And then we can have a positioning that's rather product-focused or rather story-focused, right? So it can help you actually make decisions about positioning. It's typically a tool we use with or without AI. AI helps us place this much faster, obviously. Now, the Midnight Embassy doesn't work because the opening hours of the kebab shop is only open until 10:30 in the evening. So looks like AI didn't do their homework, right? It's like a semi-apt intern to an extent. At the same time, Turkish traditional grill is a good solution, definitely not standing out. Flat bread and fire sounds a bit too funky and too far away from a döner, and fire is misleading because technically there's no fire in the kebab. So, coming back to the reality shows you the limitation of AI and the need for human oversight, at least for now. Let's see in the future. We thought, based on what we landed it, we really stick to what we can do with AI. We didn't try to overrule the machine, to be clear. That the notion of craft kebab shop is interesting. The kebab is placed in Oerlikon in Zurich. It's an area that is becoming more and more young and trendy. So having the kebab version of the coffee shop is something that could work out. At the same time, it's not too far away from what people know and expect from a kebab, because it's not the meatpacking district in New York, right? So we say, okay, let's go with positioning that place as a craft kebab shop. So we need a name for this. So what could be a name? So finding a name is something that's very difficult in reality, because you need to think in very unexpected manner to find good names. Otherwise, you end up with things like you see on the left, which is the first iteration that tells you mesa, which is means it's an alliteration of the word table in Turkish, kivo, which doesn't mean anything, tender, which sounds Indian, lava, which is maybe like lavash, or pida, which is like pide. So all those names are kebabbery, which is maybe funky, I don't know. Dönerwerk, the Turkish among you would definitely not like that idea. Me neither. And those names are not strong enough. So that's where we needed to bring the twist and say, well, look, the name are not convincing. This is literally us interacting with the machine here and say, we like name that takes detail from Turkish döner culture, but the name should be easy, because in Turkish you have letters that are not pronounceable by non-Turkish speakers. So this needs to be taken into account, something that was not anticipated, by the way, by AI. And then a new batch of words, and one came up which we thought was interesting, commis. It's actually come from the word French commis, which is the young one who works as a helper in the kitchen. And we thought this is actually very interesting because it's a Turkish word. It's very easy to pronounce. It's very short, so it has a new feel. And it allows us to build up on that. We spoke about coffee shop, which is the next wave of coffee culture. So we can have that same logic by speaking about the next wave or next generation of döner kebab. So it is basically the one that started behind the counter and is now reimagining döner. So we have the novelty, always good in branding to have novelty. So we used that name commis, and we started to build with it. So from a strategy point of view, we shrunk it to the key elements for the purpose of this exercise. We have a name. The tagline would be something like New Wave Döner Shop, to be clear about what we sell, at the same time highlight the difference. And if you see the story, this is actually not too bad what we came up with. In every great kitchen, there's a commis, the quiet first, who learns by doing, who watches, tastes, and sharpens their craft over time. Commis is what happens when the apprentice becomes the master. The base text, we get this after several iterations with the AI, but you need to craft the detail. You need to change the order of the word. You need to remove the big M dash, which is the sign of AI text, by the way. You need to change the order of certain things to get that, I genuinely believe in it, that human touch. But it gives us a story. It's a new wave story. It's something the press would pick up, typically in Zurich. It's not a small market for F&B. And then what are the messages that come out of this? So with a bit of hand guiding, we landed with, it's homemade bread. We have a secret recipe, which is 100% lamb, and we have spices from Anatolia. So how does that look like? I think that's when it gets really interesting. What's the brand design of commis? Well, remember, we want to position it as the new wave döner shop here. So working with the tools, we developed a logo. Now, what you can do with logo development at this stage is really, really limited. Because either you get super cheesy thing, like a turning döner next to a text, or you go with the option that we went for, which is pure typography text, which is easier to handle, but we have no control over the actual typography. What makes beautiful typographic logo is the detail in the kerning, the change of heights, of the spacing. That's how you make the craft. So we can do none of this, which is fine because that's the goal of this exercise. Colors, black and white, we decided to get this new wave feel and not play the typical colors like red that you would have in most of the döner shop. We developed fonts. So we have fonts that look good. The problem is that we don't know what those fonts are because they're generated by AI. So we technically cannot use them, but at least it gives us a direction. And then I think that's where AI performs really well. Using reference pictures from Pinterest, we can start to generate an illustration language. And the amazing thing here is that we can bring a lot of coherence throughout. And we'll see after how even we can animate those. And then some couple of icons that could be used in the shop itself. So this part, to be honest, is very convincing, but it does need a lot of art direction. Because if you just say, do me an illustration, you're going to end up with something that's maybe very plain vanilla. So you need, again, to guide the process to get to that level. And this is where we landed it. I'd love to hear your comments in the chats, or if you think this is convincing or not convincing, or look good or not. But you've got to think that this has been entirely produced with AI, right? This turning döner does not exist. It's actually a picture that was then animated to move. You see the detail of the animation of the little girl eating her dürüm, the signage, the guy in the kitchen, the döner, as you see at the bottom left. Nothing exists, right? And we have tweaked the facade using AI here again. My view on it is not bad. It's probably better than most of branding of restaurants you can find out there, to be fair. It's definitely not the level of what Creative Supply would do, in the sense of the attention to detail by definition cannot be there. But it's an amazing way to prototype ideas, or even to show quickly what could something become. Let me share with you a couple of reflection points that we had about where is the machine good, where is human really, really good. So where is HI, human intelligence? Maybe we start to speak about this soon. Superior, and I say for now, because maybe in 6 months or 1 year we do this webinar again and the content will be very different. Intention, human intention. What is it that we want to do? We want to give it a black and white look, and we want to position it as a new wave coffee shop because we know this is good. How do you frame the brand? In which category you put it? It requires a human intention, like a form of vision. And that's extremely difficult for a machine to do, because it will go with the probability. But sometimes the probability is not the right option. To be honest, very often it's something that you don't expect it. So obviously you can ask the machine to come up with something unexpected, but what it would come up with lacks the depth that you need in intention. Artistic direction, design, wording, it's all about nuances. Even if you look at Switzerland, since we probably have a bit of a Swiss audience here, the word you use in Swiss German or in French, or when the Swiss Germans write copy in French, they use words that Swiss French would never use, or maybe vice versa. There's so many nuances. This is very, very hard to pick up on. Same in design, a specific tone of color maybe has a different association. Maybe a campaign from a few years ago failed and people spoke about the colors. There's all those granular elements which are very, very hard to pick up. And taste fundamentally is a human thing. What makes Birkenstock cool or not cool has nothing, or Crocs, what makes Crocs cool or not cool has nothing to do with facts. It has to do with human psychology. Stakeholder management. So here I'm showing you a prototype concept for a döner kebab. So there's one guy arguably that would sign off on the design. If you work on a real branding project, you probably have a lot of people involved. The board, C-level, maybe operations, and all those people will have opinions, fear, agendas, and managing all of them is obviously something that requires human touch and human skills. What you show to whom and when and how you say things impact the success of a project. Try to sell a pink logo to a male-dominated industry, for example, either you're a very good salesperson or there is no chance, right? So stakeholder management is, in reality, at least 40% of the work in large branding projects, at least for us. And that's something that, is inherently human. Holistic thinking about the overall coherence of something, thinking what's behind the corner, thinking of the overall context, the cultural nuances which I mentioned. All of these things, and thinking about this at the same time, something, by the way, that Westerners do not as good as Easterners, to be honest, but that holistic thinking is something that, you see the dead angle when you drive, because you turn your head and you look around, and that's something that's still very, very human. And obviously, anything that links to custom detail and execution, so far technology cannot do it. Imagine we wanted to bring Komi now to real life. Well, we don't even have a version of the logo that we can actually print out on the vitrine because we don't have the right file format. So there's a lot of technical limitations. Or we need to go take the measurement of the board on site to be able to design it. We need to be able to estimate the layout placement and decide that X amount of page would be better than another because of the format of the physical menu, etc., etc. So as soon as you go into execution, and you touch physical execution, technology is nowhere there. Digital is a bit different because you can actually generate very easily different format of one picture, for example, one for TikTok, one for Instagram, etc. Those things can be automated, and to be honest, thank God, because it's such a pain to do. But when it comes to actual creation, detail matters. If you work in luxury, for example, you know how much picky people are about the placement and the size of a logo on an ad. This is something that takes so much time to fine-tune. Tech cannot do this today, yet. And finally, pure graphic creativity. What our design team can come up with by using transversal thinking, using an insight that's unexpected, using an idea from somewhere else and bring it, knowing what the rules are of a certain industry and break them in a way that you don't expect them. This is something that's really human. So pure graphic creativity, I don't see this being replaced anytime soon, but I see the execution being replaced very, very soon, actually. But that artistic direction, but really applied to specific design skill, it's something that's still very, very, very human. So to wrap up this presentation, I wanted to share with you a couple of ideas that we have for AI strategy, looking at this model that I showed you before. So first of all, how do we get competitive advantage? When everybody is talking about AI, what is it that we should do? Whether we are an accounting firm or a job search firm or a restaurant or a school, what do we do? So I'm going to sound old school on this one, but raw human thinking. I even did a TEDx talk that you can check out. We'll share it with you after on the topic. Raw human thinking, and I'm talking pen and paper, no distraction, is unbeatable still today. Because when you have that connection just with your own thoughts and what you want to do, you explore universe that are actually million times bigger than what any technology can do. And then you can use that core thinking and use the technology to amplify it. The problem that we see typically with junior staff is they tend to jump in the technology to find a solution for them. So they are skipping that core thinking time. And that is, to be honest, where you can get the true competitive advantage. Because, if everybody's using AI asking the same question, chances that they get the same result is pretty high. So going back inside and really thinking for ourselves is actually going to be a source of competitive advantage. I think it was before, but it will be even more. When everybody can copy your design, from your interior design to your logo design, and everybody at face value can create a brand. We've seen this with the rise of drop shipping. People don't even own anything. They just have a nice fancy brand and they ship products on which they put a logo on it. So there is no depth, which means down the line, if we want to build brands that are really, really strong and solid, we need to build an integrated set of elements that work together by creating a defensive moat, like a protective thing. I mean, I use Apple just once, but if you understand Apple, what makes them great? Is it the Apple Store? Is it the technology? Is it the UX? Is it Steve Jobs? Is it the coolness of the phone? It's probably all of this working together in a very strong way. It's not one thing. Apple logos is not the thing that make it successful. It's part of it. And I think we really have to look at brand not at facade, like a logo and a look, because that thing can be copied overnight. We have to look at brand as a complex ecosystem that integrates a lot of things. It's not new fundamentally from a branding theory point of view, but it is becoming really essential. And finally, offline inspiration. Look for ideas where nobody else is looking. Everybody's on Perplexity and ChatGPT right now asking for inspirations. Don't do that. Go out in the real world, speak to the people, dig into your archives, look for details of what people do, the behavior, how they say things, how they write things, look at the graffitis on the street. Basically find offline inspiration that are unique to your own environment and use that to feed whatever you want to create. Because that way, it's authentic, even though I don't like the word. You create a form of authenticity thanks to this. Now, I wanted to go through a bit the way you can, in a way, audit your brand, right? But you can literally break your brand at all those different levels. I have 8. And what should be the strategic response in the case of AI? So if we look at storytelling, you want to build narrative on proprietary assets, basically things that you own. Maybe you have your own method IP, maybe you have your own history, or you own some data, or you own some relationships. Build your story on things that your competitors don't have. So it's not about having a cool sounding story like, oh, we want to reinvent the world and be a great place, because that everybody is going to have. So you need to use something that's truly yours. I love Montessori. For the one who have kids, you probably understand. Montessori is initially a method to raise kids. So it has an IP component, but then that method has grown into schools, but also toys, books for kids and adults, as well as furniture, because your kid has to sleep the Montessori way. And that actually is a very good example of a story that is an IP story that is used throughout the experience. What you offer from a customer offering, I think it's the opportunity to offer things that you could not offer before. Sephora in the retail world is really good at using AI to help people test new makeup product on them. Extreme value actually for the customers. So think about the thing that you can now finally offer to your client. We do a lot of work in hotels, for example, and how many times you want to know at what time the breakfast starts or whether there's a hairdryer in the room. Those things can be answered by AI, like a chatbot that actually works in such easy way. And that's amazing, the added value you can offer. Space design, think about stuff that you cannot digitize. If you can digitize it, it's not good enough. As simple as this. You want to experience stuff on site which are so unique that it's worth being there. Like any shop from Gentle Monster, the Korean eyewear brand, or if you go to a Cartier shop where you feel you are halfway between a private hotel lobby and a museum for jewelry, those experiences are unbeatable online, even though you can buy a Cartier tank watch online. We see this a lot in commercial real estate, typically in Europe, where so much of office and retail space now has to be repurposed simply because digital took that business over. Non-digital source, when it comes to brand identity, I mentioned this, really look for things that are not available online. When it comes to communication channels, the problem is that Google was the big thing until now. Today, it's still the big thing, but ChatGPT is something. And tomorrow, it's going to be something else. We've been telling this to our client for at least 10 years now, and we are still saying the same thing. You don't want an engineer sitting in Palo Alto to decide how you can reach out people. So you need to own the channels that you have to communicate with people, which means you need their phone number or you need their email. It doesn't matter. But if you rely on a piece of code somewhere in California to decide who you can reach and when, you are in trouble because you don't fundamentally own your business. And we saw this, what the hotel industry had to leave because of Booking.com is a good example that building up your own channel is worth actually millions if you don't want to end up paying 10, 15, 20% to whoever is actually accessing those customers for you. And that's not changing with ChatGPT search, of course. And community activation, how you can bring people together is actually very interesting, what you can do with AI. So that's something to think about. Partner ecosystem, I'm thinking about LVMH and Alibaba, for example, when LVMH is tapping into Alibaba AI technology to improve, for example, their chatbot, personalized recommendations for their customers, etc. So you can create new competitive area actually by bringing new partner on board, because the same way a lot of business wanted to create their own apps, they realized it failed. A lot of business today want to create their own AI, they will realize it failed. So you're better off focusing on what you do best, which is probably integrating different things, and AI being one component in that value proposition. And finally, team and culture. I think what's really a good idea today is to tap into your staff, be your founder, but maybe not even, maybe just your intern or your 20 years old employees sitting somewhere in accounting to actually act as brand ambassador. We are reaching kind of a trust crisis because everything is online and you don't know what to trust, what not to trust. You can even have AI generated person. Am I even real, or is this an AI version of myself? Maybe you will never know. But having real people embody your brand and actually being the voice of it is something that by definition is unique because there's only one person. And I think Hailey Bieber, who sold her company for $1 billion simply because she was connected to it, but more locally, Johannes Lederhaar, the CEO of Lederhaar, the premium chocolate company in Switzerland, who's very active on LinkedIn, going out there and saying what he's doing, showing the back of the house, etc., makes the brand very, very relatable. And we see more and more CEOs actually who realize the PR power they have, not just in press conferences, but in actually social media or even private WhatsApp channel. How many of you have a private WhatsApp channel with your top customers, for example? And I think that's where you can really create it's low-hanging fruit to create a competitive advantage. So this leads us to the end of our presentation, and we'll have a bit time for Q&A. Will AI kill your brand? And I need to answer in a Swiss neutral way on this one. It depends. A knife can kill you, but a knife can make you a Michelin star chef. So down the line, it's about looking at what your business and your brand is, the role that AI can do, and make sure you cut fast enough and small enough so that you have great food, but that you don't cut yourself, because that's definitely a risk for it. So hopefully this kind of wrap up a little bit the thinking we have with AI, and to be honest, it's such an emerging topic. So I promised to you a mini surprise. So we have launched, it's a very new thing actually, reacting to most of our clients. Everybody's asking a lot of questions about what to do with AI, how to do it, what's happening with our brand, what should we do. So we thought, let's do something very simple. It's a WhatsApp channel. Actually, we don't even get your phone number, joke aside, so that we can actually share with you some key insight, maybe once a week, maybe every 2 weeks, about something that we think is interesting. And we'll also inform you about the next webinars and events that we have. And I'll also promise you so that was the mini surprise. Now I need to do my 5 seconds of begging, because we live in a digital world, and who says digital says review, and who says review says Google Map, at least in the Western world. So if you found this session somewhat interesting, somewhat useful, I would love if you guys can leave us a small review. I put the link in the chat, and you can scan it directly on your phone as well. It's a small thing for you, but you have no idea how much we can benefit from this, and it allows us and motivates us to do some more, how can I say this, some more solutions. So we have a bit time for questions. So if anybody has questions, I'm happy to pick them up. Okay, I think there's a question here. Let's see it here. So Folke is asking, how do you think about IP protection with design created in AI? I think it's a lost battle to look at this. At the same time, if you take your brand and you trademark your logo, for example, you can enforce anybody else who's copying this. So the exact logo, you can protect it. Now, AI is not changing anything. If you think, go to your local supermarket or your Metro or Aldi, you will see a lot of generic brands that use the exact same visual code than the premium brand, but they have a different name, one that sounds like it. And that didn't need AI to happen. So it will keep on happening. It was already there before. I would focus on building up a name and enforcing when needed. But to be honest, you cannot police forever. Audemars Piguet is struggling with hyperfake, for example, and a Gucci with fake T-shirt, but people will still want the real thing, actually. And being the real thing is probably where the real value is than protecting your design at any point. Let's see, there is some other questions. Okay, there's one here. Do you think this is something that could be done in hospitality world? Talking about own channel, how could we use that? Thanks for the question. 100%. I mean, think about it. Just a basic WhatsApp channel and inviting locals to come back to your restaurant. Or if you just have a special promotions that you want or that you'd like to invite your friends to, just use your own channels and share interesting things about it. And I think the key there is not to just share promotion campaigns, can be part of it, but it's just about sharing interesting things or fun things or things that make people smile. I think we live in an era of entertainment. So 100% for a hotel, you can totally do this. You can do this for any single business. The thing is that you need to do some real thinking about what value you add. And if your only value is, we have a summer promotion, book 2 rooms, get 1 for free. Yeah, sure. I mean, the channel is not going to solve your problem. The content is the problem. So I think that's how I would look at it. Okay, there's one question here. What do you think of people who are against the use of AI images, saying it's killing art? How do you think it will affect a brand that uses AI image? Well, I think in a couple of months or years, nobody will be able to tell if an image is AI image or not. So the question will be void. You won't know. To be honest, you will really not know. So I don't know what to tell you. I think it's a lost battle. Generating AI allows us to develop visuals, variations of visuals that we could not do before. And I think this is amazing. Art direction is still needed. People who are against AI image, in a couple of months, they will not even know which one is AI and which one is not AI. And again, what's the original? Be the original, be the first. Have everybody else copy you. If people know that you are the original, the real value is there in you being the reference, not being the copy. I see something here. It's a long question. A design studio used Midjourney to create some of the brand assets for Field Day Festival. They look great. Do you have a favorite project or case study where Midjourney was used to create a brand asset in the real world? I don't. The reason for this is I think most agencies are very shy about talking about this, except a couple, of course, because they don't want to admit that they're not doing it themselves. But I think they should own up the fact that if you don't have art direction capacity, you cannot create something that amazing. You still need that competence. But I think we'll see more and more in them. I would love, me personally, to be able to do a project fully using AI for a client, but this requires someone who's ready to take the risk because we have less actually control over what can come out of it. But I think it would create amazing PR value, typically in Europe, where this is still a very new topic. Do you see human interaction as key differentiator in the future for service-based business or in hospitality? Yeah, I mean, I think on one hand, you want to automate and use technology to everything that you can possibly, you don't need a person for check-in, to be honest. You don't need a person for many things, but you want to keep the human as a premium interaction in your brand, which also means that the human have to step up. Because right now, a chatbot on a hotel website is answering my questions faster than the person I call when I reach the hotel. So I think it's really about having those superhuman that have the empathy, intelligence, and are able to evolve in the real world by leaving technology handle all the rest. So yes, they have a space for it, typically in the luxury segment. I think the budget segment is more going toward humanless hospitality, typically in Europe, where cost of staff is just too high to be able to keep this. We have a question from Henry. Hi, Henry. Hoteliers are not the best storyteller, although they have great story to tell. I agree that generative AI be a solution. Do you have any experience on how this has worked for hoteliers? Well, AI is a tool. And I use the metaphor of a helicopter. If now, Henry, assuming you don't drive a helicopter, if you and I, we are put in a helicopter right now, it looks really fancy and there's a lot of buttons, but we have no idea what to push first and in which order. I think AI is like this. It's an amazing tool and it's so powerful. But if you don't know how to approach it, what you will end up with will be generic. And we've seen hoteliers kind of going their way and say, I'm going to do my own thing, just using AI. But what they end up with actually just sound like the cliche we already know about hotels. Ideally located, our hotels welcome business and leisure for a unique experience that will delight you. I mean, you don't need AI to come up with that low level of storytelling. So if the hotels have managed to do it, I don't know because they don't speak about it. And to be honest, I don't think it matters. You know, nobody is saying, oh, I created my storytelling using research on Google, and I created my storytelling using Microsoft Words. You know, it's a freaking tool. I think what matters is what comes out of it. And to be honest, I think nobody has an excuse anymore not to level up because we all have a helicopter now. So let's learn how to drive the helicopter rather than questioning who has managed to fly with the helicopter. I think I have answered your question, Henry. We have a question here. How is AI reshaping the way we approach strategy and branding, and what fundamental change should we expect in how brands are built going forward? I think I answered some of the questions in this presentation. Jamie, thanks for the question. I just think brands are going to have much more complexity and depth because we can do more. You know, so back then you could do maybe 2 photo shoots a year for a brand, and then you are stuck. While now you can use what you have done to create more, to animate them, etc. So I think it's going to change a lot how much you can do with a brand, but it's not going to change the fundamental, which is what do you stand for and who are you for the people? And answering that is definitely where the true value is going to be. But yeah, I mean, if you are a marketing agency doing a campaign on Google AdWords and Facebook, I think you can close shop because the reality is that AI does that job much better. In our case, focusing on branding and experience design, part of the job in execution will be fully automated. I think we'll still deliver it because as client, you still need someone to handle that. The part which is about creating the experience and having that holistic thinking I was telling about, I think is going to take a bit more time. And, you know, you still want someone to be accountable for the solution. So, you know, McKinsey has been using outsourcing people in Eastern Europe and India for years now, but their rates haven't gone down. So I think this will not change that much. Question here from my partner. If you can digitize your ID, it means that it is not good enough. So does it mean that human intelligence is working to nourish artificial intelligence? We will have enough new ID the years to come to stay competitive? It's such an amazing question. To answer this, I would look at the world of art. And if you look at art at the Renaissance, or before Renaissance actually, nobody had invented perspective. And it felt like painting was as far as it go because it was just flat. Then one Italian guy said, well, maybe we could have perspective. And suddenly the whole game changed. And then you fast forward and you have Picasso and Jackson Pollock, which reinvent painting. I think this human creativity is what we are amazing at. And I think we're just going to have more luggage to invent those new things. And when you look at what people are creating with AI today, you know, from memes to actually very useful things, from solving cancer to creating cool memes, you realize that there's no limit to creativity. I genuinely believe this. So I'm actually personally excited about what it will unlock in the future. Please share top 3 AI tool which is not popular from your perspective. Well, this I really don't know. I can show you that I think Claude is really amazing for deep thinking. ChatGPT is a bit like the standard, let's put it that way. Not popular. I'm not sure. We need to think about. I see a lot of new tools that are meant to do specific things, like AI agent or specific things that are meant to build websites in one go. We've tried them because we're very curious about them. But honestly, the time it takes you to fix the mistake that were created in the first place without even having that creative thinking, it's okay for a basic landing page for a drop shipping website. But as soon as you go into a bit more detail, it just doesn't work. Lots of questions here. This is really interesting. Let me see what else we have. I'm going through the question, just make sure I didn't miss any. Yeah, I think there's one last here. Let me pick this up one. Can a brand, let's say 5-10 years old now, become like Hermes or Aman, for example, without using any AI at all in the next 20-30 years? This is a very interesting question, actually. I think it's a positioning question. I think taking the stand that you don't do AI because you are just real, arguably, is definitely a proposition that is attractive today, I think, because people are fed up with the digital world, so they might like that going back to the root idea. Will it be successful in 10 or 15 years when everybody else would be born with AI? I'm less sure. I think there's definitely way of thinking there, but even Aman or even any basic back to the roots brand, they probably use Figma for the design of their website. They probably use Photoshop to edit the lighting. They probably use Webflow to build their website. They probably use Instagram to do their communication. Does it make sense not to use it? I don't know. I would look at it from a cost value benefit. Does it make more sense or not? I'm not sure. Monocle, anti-digital, are they doing fine now? As a half insider, let's say, I know they're working on the new website for a long time, so I think they understood that the world is changing. All right, guys. If there is no last questions, I think it's thank you very much for all of all your questions. To be honest, it's really, really cool to hear what people are asking and thinking, and really good to see a good turnout in this webinar today. We will share with you a recording or some abstract of this webinar, as well as a couple of extra resources. And if you have follow our Brand Shift WhatsApp, you'll definitely hear about our next event, which will start again as of September. This was the last one before the European summer break. Something that's not changing with AI is called Holiday in August. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining me today, and thank you for the team for helping me put together this presentation at all levels, particularly Carmen and Anaïs. And I hope to see you soon, maybe online, on the phone, on a Zoom call, or who knows, maybe even in real life. Thank you very much, everybody, and take care.